Hi everybody! Welcome back. Diva LaVida here. It is still very much the stay-at-home times. Ugh. So I continue to be scantily clad in my own kitchen. Ugh. But that's how we do, alright? So it's all good. Not gonna lie, it's been a difficult year, so I'm ready to make some comfort food. I want to make today a delicious pasta dish known as an aglio olio e peperoncino, which is really, I don't know the direct translation, but it's garlic and oil and crushed red pepper. It's the simplest pasta. I'm almost a little embarrassed to make it, but it's delicious. So let's do this. Yeah! Did I not hit stop? I sure didn't. Okay. So as I was saying, simplest recipe ever. You can do this with just one of these here garlics. I'm going to do two of these here garlics because I like lots of garlic. You're going to need some spaghetti. You want a thin spaghetti or an angel hair? Something chill. Don't go with a thick spaghetti or a massive rigatoni or anything like that. No, we want it pretty skinny for this one. And then make sure you've got your crushed red pepper ready, rock steady. Have your big old pot of water ready to go. Oh, pow! Oh, stop clicking. Yep. Just make sure that's nice and high because we're going to heat that up to a nice boil. Get your salt. Now is the time to salt the heck out of that water. Boop, 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 boop. You might think that's too much salt. You'd be wrong. A little bit more, just in case. It's good for you. All right, so now we need to prep our garlics and get these ready to go in a pan. So I've got a little trash bag here that I've put directly in front of the camera on the countertop so that I can start ripping these garlics out of their home. So you just want to take the little pods out of there. We're going to have to attack all of the flaky bits that are on this. Ugh. I try to do this directly over the garbage bag to decrease the mess. Ooh, there's a lot of it. I used to be friends with someone who did not like using garlic and things because he thought it was too much work. I may have told this story on the show before, but he always thought garlic was too much work, so he didn't put it in any of his food. In case you're wondering, yes, he was a white man who made bland food. And yeah, we didn't stay friends for a very long time. I mean, we stopped being friends for whole other reasons, but that was a strike against him from the very beginning, that's for sure. So now I've dismantled this one garlic head here, and you may think that's enough for me, and that's fine. If that's enough for you, A-okay. It's not enough for me. I'm not joking when I say I like a lot of garlic, so I'm gonna dismantle this whole other one as well. So let's see. When I discovered this dish, no, it existed long before I did. Oh, this is another reason why I like to use more than one garlics, because sometimes you get one that looks a little funky, and you can't really tell how funky it is from the outside, and it's not until you get really in there, you're like, oh, not all of these cloves are good. And some of them are, oh, legit unusable. I don't know if I even want to show you how bad this one looks from the inside. Well, good thing that first one was hearty and hopefully delicious and totally usable, because this one has a whole section that's just not gonna work out, I think. That's okay. Well, I've had this garlic for a little while. I waited perhaps a couple days, weeks, too long before wanting to make this and record it for all of you. So let's see. It's fine. It's all fine. What was I saying? Yes. So when I was a teenager, my family moved to Italy for a couple years, which was a real culture shock for me, having lived in the United States my entire life. But when we got there, one of the dishes that I found I really enjoyed was this aglio olio peperoncino, because it was not scary. There were other dishes that I grew to love over time, but this is the one that I had from the very beginning. That light is so bright. Oh, sorry about that. I'll try to block it with my giant head. Okay, so now we need to take all of these garlics and get them out of their the flaky, skinny, shelly stuff, right? So let's do that. So this, some would argue, is the best part of peeling the garlic. You lay it down there for all to see. You put the knife on it to make sure it's flat side. You prepare with the base of the hand, and then you crush it. Bam! And you'll see that it just starts to flake right off. Move aside. Do the next one. Boom! Do the next one. Bam! Just like that. And you're just going to assembly line this puppy of putting the garlic down and squashing the heck out of it. If you had a rough day, this is really therapeutic. Really helps work out some anger issues. Boom. You want to try and get the garlic with like the pointy side on top so that when you thwack it, it really smushes down nicely. If you've got one of these where it's pretty much flat all the way around, you're going to thwack it and it's not going to smush quite as well because it was already smushed. And we'll work it out later, it's fine. No big deal. So you just do the best you can, giving it a hearty thwack, giving it a smush smush. Because once this goes into the dish, we're cutting it all apart anyway. We're going to chop it up so it doesn't need to be pretty. So we'll whack it about. Really smack it around. So as I was saying, used to live in Italy. This was a dish that seemed pretty chill, something that my American taste buds could handle, and that my teenage brain was okay with. And I really, really enjoyed it. And then I was like, Mama, please figure out how to make this. And she was like, you really haven't figured out how to make this yet? But then she made it at home, and it was delicious. And even as an adult, when I go to visit, she makes it for me at home, and it's delicious. And she still makes it better than I do. But I'm going to do my best to make it delicious here for all of you. Okay, there's more to peeling this garlic. Step 2, it's coming. So at this point, I recommend rinsing your knife so that you get all the flaky bits off of it. But set it aside, because we won't need it here for a minute. So now you've got your broken up pieces of garlic, and you just want to peel off as much of that flaky stuff as possible. It should peel off pretty easily now that you've split it all apart. So you're just gonna get your thumbnail in there and boop boop. And some of them are gonna be easier than others. Again, I've got my trusty little trash bag here atop the counter. And then if you can rip off whatever this thing is, that's nice. But if you can't, no big deal, because we're gonna chop them up here in a second and get all that stuff. So like this one was just ready to go. How nice is that? Those are the best. The bigger the clove, the easier this is, that is for sure. And again, you just do this right over your little trash bag so that it just flakes off. It just falls directly into the trash bag. You might see something similar to this on a other cooking show that does meals in half an hour or less. She didn't invent it, but she did make it very popular. So yeah, but I mean, she's not wrong. She's not wrong. It can be handy to do this sort of thing. I know other people just like to pull their kitchen trash container over to whatever counter they're doing this by. That's fine. You do you. Whatever works for you, my friends. That's what it is all about. So you just go through and you peel off all of these bits and bits. This is the tedious part of the thing. But remember, there's only this one ingredient, basically. So, and you're doing this while you're waiting for that water to boil anyway. What else are you going to do while you wait for that water to boil? Not a darn thing. Don't you lie to me. Okay, so here's another thing that I find helpful. As you go through these garlics, your fingers are going to get sticky, right? So just rinse them with some water. You'll hear this in the background. That's it. You just get your hands wet and then go back at it. And then having wet hands helps a little bit with getting all this stuff off. And then sometimes it doesn't do you any good at all. Sometimes you just gotta get in there with your fingernails. And then you see, sometimes you got stuff like that. We'll cut that off too, because that part's not delicious. That's okay. Get all of this off of here. And see that's smush about stomping with the side of the knife method is so good because it really just gets all of this to loosen up, and then you just peels right off. Boop, boop, boop. No big deal. No big deal. I mean, garlic's always going to take a second, no matter what. If you're the kind of person who would rather buy this pre-peeled, go ahead. Whatevs. If you prefer a pre-peeled garlic that comes in like a jar or whatever, totes fine. Again, you do you. I feel like all of us are like really up in our cooking game this year in the 2020. And my personal opinion, it all comes down to whatever works best for you. Because you're the one who's going to eat it, right? So whatever is most delicious for you. Go ahead, do it. Boop, boop, boop. See, so sometimes I just like to get in there. Oh, my light again. To get in there with the thumbnail and just to scoop that off. Get that out of there. And I've been peeling garlic for a long time. I adore garlic. I would argue it is one of, if not my favorite food. And even I still sometimes have a little trouble with this. So yeah, just do the best you can. Because then in a minute, when we're chopping these up, you might discover other flaky bits that you didn't notice were there, and be like, whoops-a-doodle. And then you just grab them and take them out of there. I hope that made sense. I might be rambling right now, because this is taking slightly longer than I anticipated. But hey, it's necessary to the aglio, olio, e peperoncino. I find this dish so comforting, but it's a dish that I usually like to make when my man friend is, you know, out of town or something, because there is so much garlic involved. So it's one of those that, like, you're gonna eat this, it's gonna be delicious, you're gonna love it, and then you, spoiler alert, are gonna smell like garlic for about 3 days. Your entire home is gonna smell like garlic for a little while. So if you don't enjoy garlic, maybe this is not the dish for you. But as I said, my favorite food. So I really like it. Get off it. This is a little tiny baby clove here. I'm having a hard time. No, there we go. There we go. Oh, I gotta rinse my hands one more time. It's because I'm starting to stick to stuff, right? So let me get my hands rinsed. So now that we've got them all out of their shells, we just want to clean them up a little bit. So I still got my little garbage bag over here, convenient here. And then you'll see with some of these, not all, but some, you'll notice there's this little like hard bit. This is what was, you know, like connected it to the base, right? And that part is not as delicious. So I just want to go through and just slice that part off. And then I'm looking for any kind of little imperfections that I think might not be as delicious. I'm just going to chop those bits off. So I just want to go one by one and get those. And you're just giving them a little once over to make sure they don't got anything funky happening. Because as I said, I might have waited a hair too long. But it's okay. So you just go through and you chop off the tip tops, and then anything that you're like, that doesn't look delicious, I'd rather not. You just want to give that a bit of a no thank you and get it out of there. So you're just creating this little discard pile here, and then a little keep pile on the side. Just takes a moment to go through each of these. And again, if you're not using as much garlic, this won't take as long. But I think it is ultimately worth it to do this little extra step. Oh, see, I don't know if you can see this, but there's a little bit flaky bit that I missed there. So I'm just going to scrape that off with my knife, make sure that ends up in the discard pile. This is a nice way to make sure that you got all those flimsy bits off of there. Sometimes I see in cookbooks where they're like, oh, just put in like 1 or 2 cloves of garlic. And I was just like, what monster created this recipe with just 1 or 2 cloves of garlic? I personally always ignore that and put in maybe 10 times as much, because I love garlic. And arguably, I spent too many years wasting my youth drinking whiskey and straight hot sauce. And consequently, I like a very strong flavor, perhaps too strong, one could argue. As I may have destroyed my taste buds very early in my life. Whoops-a-doodle. But it's okay. I just keep adding more spices to things, and they turn out pretty alright, at least for me. And let's be real, most of the time, I am cooking for just myself. So my tastes are the only ones that matter, to me. Okay, and there, oh, just one more little bit, and there we go. So then all of this stuff, we're just gonna put in the garbage. Our water has already come to a full boil, but I'm not quite ready to drop that pasta yet, but we'll get there! So I've got my garlic all nice and cleaned up, but I want to go ahead and prepare my pan. So I have my olive oil ready to go. My pan is here, And I want to put in quite a bit of oil because we're not really adding anything else, right? So this is going to dress all of our pasta. And so there we go. How much was that, you say? I don't know, a lot. However much you think you should put in, and then just a little bit more than that. Because, yeah, as I said, all of this oil is going to cover all of this pasta. It's going to go in that water here in just a moment. So another thing that I like to do, we've got about, we've got quite a few of these over here. I want to take some of these little bit smaller ones, and I'm not even going to chop them up. I'm just going to put them directly in the pan. There's no heat under that yet. So I just want to take some of these, because I like some that are a little bit more whole, that are just like not super chopped, chippity chopped. And we're just going to put them in already as is. And the rest of these are pretty large, so I think I want to make them just a smidge smaller. But I don't want everything a full dice chop, right? And then even a couple of these, I like a couple of big mouthfuls of big garlic. So I'm going to take just a couple. I think this, let's go for these. And those big ones are going to go in like that. And the rest of these we're going to chop up. One more. So we've got our last remaining garlics here, and we just want to chop them up. So you want to line them up nice and tight. You've got your knife here. You put your hand on top of the knife so your fingers are clear, and then with the handle, just an up and down motion through that garlic, making your way across the board just like that. I'll try to do it from here, from this side, so you can see. And you just want a nice rough chop there. And if anything gets too out of the way, you just squish it back, squish it back, squish it back, and then run your knife through it one more time. I just want all the garlic to just be sort of like ish the same size. It doesn't really matter with this particular dish. So just get in there and make it chunky. Yeah. And then we clean off the knife. And again, I love garlic, so I do one of these. Oh. It's good for your heart. Okay, what's next? I think we're ready to do some stuff on the stove. From here on out, our sauce and our pasta is going to come together at basically the same time. So we've got this pan ready to go. Let's put some heat under it. Fire, yeah! So that's getting that going nice and hot. In the meantime, we can go ahead and put our pasta into this pot. Boo-boo. All right, that was a little messier than I would like, but hey, what are you gonna do? Get rid of that box. I like to use chopsticks for my pasta. Again, you do you. Get all of that in there. And now this pasta only needs to be in here for about 8 to 10 minutes, which is just right for what we're gonna be doing on the other burner. So you just gotta soften it up a little bit. Get that in there. It's so much easier when I'm not holding a camera. So here we go. Just pick up that whole cutting board and slide all of that into the pan. You like to use the dull side of your knife to do the scraping there, right? Not the sharp side, because that will ruin the sharp side of your knife. So then I set that down, and now we're just moving this about. I'm using the same chopsticks because it's easier for me. I'm lowering this heat quite a bit to about a medium, because garlic will burn in a heartbeat if you let it, so you really want to watch this oil and make sure, because what we want is the garlic to cook and soften, but not burn, you know what I mean? So you might have to keep that moving a little bit. Ooh, I want you to see this. I want you to see it. There we go. That's what it looks like. I'm just moving that around. I'm going to lower the heat even more. This is like the second lowest setting I can get this on. That oil is bubbling. There's some steam coming off of it, so I feel like it's hot enough. Let's go back to this pasta. I want to keep that moving around, otherwise it'll stick together. Don't want that. Really want all of that in the water there. That's good to go. Come back over here. So here we've got the aglio and the olio portion coming together. We need the pepperoncino. So we get our crushed red pepper. Now my crushed red pepper comes with this little, thingy on top. That thing's garbage. I don't like it. It doesn't do me any good. So I just pop that off. So I'm gonna do one of these. And as I said, I like a strong flavor. So I'm gonna put in a lot of crushed red pepper. How much is that, you say? I don't know, a lot. And then a little bit more, because I like it. Now all of this is also going to infuse into the oil, so any bite that doesn't have directly garlic or directly peppers in it is still going to be super delicious and flavorful, because we're flavoring all of that oil as well. So it's important to keep this on a low heat so that it doesn't burn, as I previously stated, but you do want it to have a chance to heat up and cook through as much as possible to infuse into that oil. So this is basically it. Now it's just a bit of a waiting game. All that's gonna, infuse and be wonderful. This is gonna continue to boil and get luscious and lovely. And we've got a few more minutes here as we wait for this all to come together. And then, yeah, super simple, super easy. The hard part's already over, my friends. What is this? Is that a crushed red pepper that was stuck to one thing and is now in here? That's fine. I'm leaving it, because it's all going to come together anyway. Okay. Just imagine, if you will, all of this sitting for a few more minutes. This is when I drink my wine, and then we come right back. Pow! Pow! If you're feeling fancy, and I know you are, then you put your hand on here, right? And then you just lift this a little bit off of the burner, and then you just move. You just give it a little bit of movement. You don't want it sloshing on the sides. You just want it to not stick to the bottom. Like, it's not going to stick to the bottom because there's so much oil in there. You just want to give it a little bit of swish, swish, a little swish, swish, and then you set it back down and let it continue to chill out. A few more minutes. Another reason I like to use chopsticks is because then you can just reach into this bubbling cauldron and pluck out a noodle when you're like, oh, but is it ready? But is it ready? And then you can eat it and be like, no, it's not ready. It needs another 2 minutes. Maybe 1 minute. Probably 2. I'll show you a trick that my man friend likes to do sometimes. I am usually like keep the garlic oil all across the pan, but my man friend will sometimes tilt the pan so that one side is more over the burner than others, and try to get everything in the oil on that side. Don't spill, my God, you will set your entire house on fire. Be very, very careful. But that can help sort of concentrate that heat onto that oil, and then you set it back down. That's a pretty advanced move. Be careful, friends. Safety first, always. Okay, some time has passed. I tested another noodle off camera, so I feel pretty good. I tested a little bit of garlic off camera. That felt pretty good. So it's time to turn everything off. Turn that one off. Turn that one off. And now we gotta drain this pasta. I need both hands for this. All right, I'm placing my handy dandy colander directly in the sink. Pay no mind to the dirty dishes on that other side. I've got my giant pot of pasta into the colander. Watch out for all that steam. Now, there is a theory that you don't want you want the noodles in the colander for as little time as possible, because your sink is probably gross, let's be real. So you don't want your noodles in there for any longer than they have to be. You want to get as much water out as possible and let it go get down the drain before you dump it all, because we don't need that water anymore. But also don't spill it all over your sink, because that's gross. Whoop. Whoop, whoop. Get out, up, there we go. Okay. Now give it a nice little shake there to get that excess water off of that. And now just return this directly to that pot. It's over on the stove. It's so far away. All right, I just put the noodles back in there. Now, if this pan is big enough to put the noodles directly into that, do that. My pan, this pan, not big enough. So I'm gonna put this in there, because this pot is big enough. All right, I've got my trusty spatula ready to go. I got this big pan going into this big pot. Oh, I'm so far away, but that's how it goes. And then you just want to pour that directly on there. All of that oil and garlic and pepper goodness can go directly into the pot. Again, strong recommending the spatula for this, so that you can get all of that oil, all of that garlic, all those red pepper flakes out of the pan and onto the pasta, because it doesn't do you any good in that pan. You want it on that pasta. Boom, just like that. And that's what it looks like. You've got all that deliciousness in there. You want to give that a bit of a swirl about, trying to coat the noodles in that oil. Now, according to another celebrity chef that I've watched on the TV, if you've got this oil to noodle ratio correct, the noodles will actually soak up all of that oil. And so it'll be in the noodle. I'm not always great with that ratio. I usually use a little too much oil, but that's me. Okay, so give it a bit of a move about, and while it's still warm. It's important to do all this while it's still super warm, still here on the same hot stove and the same hot pot, but I think it's ready to serve this up and show you how I like to finish it off. Okay, so now I've got this grippy tool thing, and then I'm just gonna come in here and get a bunch of that pasta to put in my bowl. It's looking good. I want to make sure I get some garlic bits in there too, because that's the whole reason I made this, is because I want the garlic. So when I moved it about, the garlic tends to sink to the bottom, so you may have to dig a little bit to find it. Ooh. I hope you can see this, but some of these noodles are just dripping in that delicious oil. They've all got pepper flakes on them. Some really yummy garlic bits hiding at the bottom of this pot that I aim to get. Why don't you get a closer look? Oh, look at that. The steam coming off of that is beautiful. It smells incredible. So now, if you've got a little Parmesan cheese, Parmano, hiding around, if you would rather do a nutritional yeast, that is also an option. For today's purposes, I'm going with the grated Parmesan. You want to go pretty liberal with that, I dare say. So get to your heart's content with one of those. And then you can do a little crushed red pepper on top too. You put the crushed red pepper on there. It's delicious. And now you gotta taste it, right? So I'm just giving this a bit of a stir about. I'm twirling that pasta upon my fork. I want to get some garlic on there. I want that crushed red pepper. I want that delicious cheese happening. And then let's see how we do. Be careful, it's still quite hot. Don't burn yourself. No. That's my comfort food right there. Those noodles are al dente, so they still got some chew to them. That garlic is luscious and soft and just melts in your mouth. The cheese gives you a little texture. It's very spicy. That crushed red pepper's coming through nice and hard. Pow! That pepper gives you a different kind of kick on it. I don't think it needs any salt at all. I think it's perfect just the way it is. It's so good. Again, this is one of those dishes I like to eat when I'm by myself, because that garlic taste is really strong, but it just is so delicious. It makes me so happy. It reminds me of home and my youth, and it's really good. So I hope all of you get a chance to make this super simple, super easy, delicious dish, and keep taking care of yourselves. Wash your hands. Wear your mask when you go outside, everybody, because this year has been super hard, and hopefully next year will not be as hard. So enjoy some delicious comfort food, friends. Take care of yourselves. Take care of others. And we'll see you next time. Bye! Oh, this is so good.